All right, welcome to the deep dive. Today we are laying out the exact playbook for how e-commerce brands actually source their products.
Yep.
We're going to dive into the 4 core sourcing models. Think of this as your shortcut to the whole operational side of the business.
And, to really get these models, you have to first grasp this core tension in e-commerce. We call it the inventory paradox.
The inventory paradox.
So on paper, on a balance sheet, inventory is an asset. But in reality, it's a huge liability. You have to pay to store it, and it can become worthless overnight.
So every model we're discussing is really just a different way to handle that tension.
Exactly. It's a different position on the spectrum of risk versus control.
Okay, so let's unpack that, starting with the lowest risk, lowest control point. Model A, dropshipping.
The gateway drug, as some call it. The definition is, it's beautiful in its simplicity. You sell a product you never, ever physically possess.
So customer orders from my site, and the supplier just ships it directly to them.
That's it. And that low-risk part is the appeal. Let's say you want to test, a weird electronic gadget.
Okay.
If you sell 0, you lose $0 on inventory. But, and this is a big but, you have 0 control.
Ah, the fatal flaw.
It is. You're basically performing arbitrage. You're just a marketer. But if that supplier ships a broken gadget, or it takes 30 days to arrive...
The customer blames my brand.
100%. You can't build trust when you don't control the quality or the timeline.
So if dropshipping proves there's a market, what's the next step up without, betting the farm?
That brings us to Model B white labeling. This is where you find a generic product that's already being made. Think of a standard stainless steel water bottle, and you just applied your brand to it.
So you look like a legitimate brand, fast. But what's the actual cash difference between dropshipping that bottle and white labeling it?
The difference is inventory commitment. You have to buy a minimum order quantity in MOQ. The good news is, since the product is generic, the MOQs are usually pretty low. The risk, though, is what we call the product moat.
Meaning you have no defense.
None. If 50 other brands are selling that exact same water bottle, you're just competing on price. It becomes a race to the bottom.
And that's what forces a successful brand to evolve to Model C private labeling.
This is where 7-figure brands are built. You're not just taking a generic product anymore, you're modifying it to make something unique.
So you're not just asking for a logo.
Yeah.
You're dictating design changes.
Precisely. You go to the factory and say, I want this backpack, but with reinforced stitching here, 3 hidden pockets, and it has to be this specific Pantone color.
And those specific modifications give you exclusivity. You're the only one selling that version.
And you can trademark those unique features. The trade-off is, well, your MOQ is much higher. We're talking 500, maybe 1,000 units you have to pay for up front.
So the risk goes way up.
And if private labeling is the gold standard, then Model D, contract manufacturing, is the ultimate commitment. We call it the inventor's path.
Original equipment manufacturing, or OEM, building from scratch.
Totally from scratch. The barriers to entry here are just massive. You're paying for all the R&D, all the tooling.
What does that actually cost?
Well, just the molds for a complex plastic product, for example, could be $5,000, $10,000, maybe even $50,000, and that's before you've made a single unit.
Wow. But I assume the payoff is the lowest possible unit cost if you succeed.
The lowest unit cost and total control over your intellectual property. So the roadmap for an entrepreneur becomes really clear.
Okay, lay it out.
You drop ship to test demand, then you white label to build some initial trust, then you private label to defend your margins, and you only move to full contract manufacturing when you need to truly innovate.
This brings up a really important question for you, our listener, to think about. Dropshipping made e-commerce accessible to anyone, right? It took the capital requirement down to almost 0.
Yeah, it democratized it.
But given that the truly scalable, defensible models, private labeling and contract manufacturing, require so much upfront cash, how has that initial democratization actually changed the type of entrepreneur who can go on to build a really big, profitable business?
That is a great thought to chew on as you weigh the cost of control.
And that's our deep dive on the 4 sourcing models. Keep exploring, and we'll catch you on the next one. Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're getting into the real math of profit. We're talking unit economics and landed cost. This is the stuff that so many new e-commerce merchants just get wrong, and it can sink a business before it even starts.
Yeah, absolutely. We're here to basically dismantle what I like to call the gross profit illusion.
The gross profit illusion. Okay, I'm intrigued. What's that?
Well, you know the classic scenario, right? You source a product, let's say a shoe, for $20, and you sell it for $100.
Looks like 80 bucks in my pocket. A huge
It
win.
looks like it feels like you've already won, but that's the illusion. The reality is once you factor in the true costs, freight, duties, ad spend, that $80 can just poof, disappear.
Leaving you with nothing, or worse.
In fact, worse, you're actually losing money. So our mission today is to help you calculate the true cost of doing business.
Okay, so if we're hunting for that true cost, you always say we have to start with the holy grail, landed cost.
Yeah.
Why is that the holy grail?
Because gross margin is meaningless if you're using the wrong starting number. Landed cost is the real starting number. It's the total price of a product once it has arrived at your warehouse store.
Not just what the factory charged you on the invoice.
Never just the invoice. That's the first mistake.
So let's unpack that formula. This is where the costs start to creep in, I imagine.
Oh, yeah. It's your manufacturing unit cost plus freight per unit plus any duties or tariffs plus insurance.
Okay.
So think about it. If your factory price is $5, maybe you add $1.50 in shipping and another $1.25 in tariffs.
Okay, so you're already at $7.75.
Exactly. Your true landed cost just jumped by over 50%. And if you priced your product based on that original $5, you're basically guaranteeing you'll go bankrupt.
Wow. That's a huge, huge jump right at the start.
Yeah.
So that's what it costs to get it to the warehouse. Then we have to figure out the cost to get it to the customer.
And more importantly, the cost to get the customer in the first place.
Right. And that brings us to a couple more critical acronyms.
2 you have to know. First, COGS. Cost of goods sold. That's your landed cost plus the cost to, pick, pack, and ship it out.
Wait a second.
POCA, cost of customer acquisition. That's how much you had to pay Facebook or Google to get that one sale.
So if we tie all this together, we get to the break-even calculation. This is where ROAS comes in, return on ad spend.
Let's do the math real quick. Say your selling price is $50. Your landed cost is $20. Shipping it to the customer costs another $10.
Okay, so that leaves you with $20 left over.
Right. That's your contribution margin. That $20 is the absolute maximum you can spend on your QOCA just to break even.
So you need an ROAS of 2.5x just to not lose money.
Just to survive. And that's before we even talk about the silent killers.
The hidden costs that people always leave out of their spreadsheets.
They destroy profitability. First one, payment processing fees. Shopify takes, about 2.9% plus 30 cents right off the top?
So on a $100 order, $3.20 is just gone.
Instantly. You never even see it. But the biggest killer, I think, is the return rate.
Oh, yeah. This one stinks.
Because if you have, say, a 10% return rate, you lose the shipping cost there, you pay for the shipping back, and the product might be unsellable.
You've got to bake that in from the start.
You have to. A rule of thumb is to add at least a 5% defect return allowance to your costs. That and, shrinkage, stuff that gets lost or stolen.
The math is ruthless. So is there a simple rule for all this, something for a business owner to aim for to stay healthy?
Absolutely. The most successful e-commerce architects live and die by the 3x markup rule.
3 times. So your selling price needs to be 3 times your true landed cost.
Exactly. A $10 landed cost means a $30 sale price, minimum.
That feels aggressive. A lot of businesses running now are probably sitting at a 2x markup.
And they're sitting on a time bomb. The 3x rule gives you 3 clean buckets. 1/3 covers the product cost. The second third is for ad spend. And the final third is for your overhead and, your actual profit.
So that middle third is the one that fuels all your growth.
It's everything. Without it, you can't scale campaigns. You can't acquire customers profitably. If your $30 product costs you $15, you've already lost the game.
So the big takeaway is clear. Your landed cost dictates your ability to scale.
Yeah.
You have to do this math before you even think about buying inventory.
Indeed. And it leaves you with a really critical question to mull over. If you run your numbers and find your landed cost is $15 on a $30 sale, your margins are just too tight.
You're in that 2x danger zone.
You are. So the question for you to think about is this. Can you truly scale a large business based only on paid advertising if you aren't following the 3x rule? Or will you just be trapped forever relying on organic, non-scalable traffic? That's the defining question for success.
All right, welcome back. Today we're jumping into the whole world of global manufacturing.
Right.
Our mission is to basically give you the playbook for finding a really solid supplier.
Yeah.
And fast. But more importantly, how you can spot the scams. Okay, let's unpack this.
So your journey, it almost always begins online in one of 2 main places. And the sources we looked at, they really lay out the big players. First up is Alibaba, the behemoth.
Right, Alibaba. It's just massive. I mean, it's the world's biggest B2B directory. You can find someone to make literally anything on there.
Yeah.
But is it really the Amazon of B22B, or is that kind of a flawed way to think about it?
I think the analogy works for, scale and just the sheer variety, but the flaw is verification. The barrier to entry is so low that Alibaba is just packed with middlemen.
Trading companies.
Trading companies, exactly. And they're all posing as actual factories.
Okay, so that's the tension. Then you have the other one, global sources, which the source is called the professional tier.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. If it's supposedly better, with stricter verification. Right. I mean, Target and Walmart use it.
Yeah.
So why isn't that the default for everyone? Is it like too exclusive or something?
That's a great question. Global sources, they're more focused on high volume enterprise level buyers.
Right.
They asked for more paperwork, and that's why they still run that huge physical trade show in Hong Kong.
Oh, okay.
They cater to the big guys, while Alibaba is where, 99% of new entrepreneurs get their start.
So let's break down that difference you absolutely have to know. The real factory.
Yeah.
They're the ones who own the heavy machines.
Right.
That means you're going to get lower prices, but also higher MOQs, minimum order quantities. And frankly, their communication can be a little worse because they're focused on making stuff, not sales.
Precisely. And the trading company is basically a sales agent. Their English is excellent. They'll give you a lower MOQ to get you in the door, but you are paying a higher unit price. There's a markup.
So they're like a matchmaker.
A talented matchmaker is the perfect way to describe it. They know everyone, but they don't actually own the factory.
Which brings us to this essential verification trick from the sources. The product catalog trick.
Yes. This is key.
If you go to a supplier's profile and you see they sell, I don't know, phone cases, garden hoses, they are a trading company.
100%. A real factory specializes. They don't own the machines for plastic extrusion and for silicone molds. It just doesn't happen. That specialization, that's the giveaway.
Okay, but this whole conversation kind of skips a big option, right? Domestic sourcing.
It does. I mean, you can look at directories like ThomasNet here in the U.S. It's basically the original online directory for heavy industrial and specialized American manufacturing.
Well, and the unit cost, it's definitely higher, no question. But the trade-offs can be a total game changer. Speed is the obvious one. Restocking in 1 week versus, 2 months on a container ship? That's not just about convenience. It's about capital lockup.
Exactly. It's about your cash flow. Your money isn't just sitting on a boat in the middle of the ocean. It's working for you. And, you also get total immunity from tariffs, from trade wars, all that political stuff.
And for certain products, like supplements or cosmetics, things you put on or in your body, the domestic quality standards can save you from a massive compliance headache.
A huge one.
All right, let's get to the final critical step, verification. Because the platforms, they're just the introduction.
Right. You have to do the work yourself. First, look for suppliers with at least 3+ years of gold supplier status on Alibaba. It shows they're invested.
Okay.
But the absolute non-negotiable step is payment safety. You should never use Western Union or a wire transfer for a first order. Ever.
Use trade assurance.
Always use Alibaba's trade assurance.
Yeah.
It's an escrow service. If the goods don't show up as described, Alibaba gives you your money back. It's simple.
And for the ultimate, zero-cost proof, the spontaneous video call test.
My favorite.
You get them on WeChat or Zoom and just say, hey, can you walk out onto the factory floor for me right now? Just want to see the machines.
And the reaction tells you everything. The sources nail this. A scammer who's in some quiet sales office will just panic. They'll make excuses.
Oh, the internet here is bad.
Yeah. The factory's in another city. I'm not there today. But a real factory manager, they don't even hesitate. They just pick up their phone, walk through a door, and suddenly you just hear this roar of machines in the background. It's unmistakable.
So what does this all mean?
It means sourcing is a relationship game that has to start with verification. The goal is to prove they are who they say they are, then move off the platform and build that direct connection on WhatsApp or WeChat.
So here's a final thought. If sourcing really is a relationship game, what unexpected advantage does a smaller buyer get by proving they understand the difference between a factory and a trading company before they even place that first order?
That knowledge right there, it changes the entire dynamic from the very first conversation.
All right, so for today's deep dive, the mission is pretty straightforward. We're giving you a shortcut to professional sourcing. Specifically, We're talking about that very first contact, the request for quote or RFQ.
It really determines everything. It's how you get taken seriously from the jump.
And it's the difference between being a priority or just, noise.
Exactly. And that starts by not making the classic amateur mistakes.
Okay, let's start right there. What is that amateur approach? We see it all the time. Someone sends a quick email, something like,
How much is your product?
yeah, or what is your best price? It seems so direct, so logical. Why does that just completely sink your chances?
Well, because a factory gets hundreds of those emails every single day.
Wow.
And it signals you don't get their business model. Best price is totally relative.
Relative to what?
To volume. The price for 100 units is completely different from 10,000 units. So if you don't give them a number, you're asking them to guess. And, well, they're not going to waste their time.
Okay, so let's build the professional approach then. We need to shift from being a browser to a buyer.
That's the perfect way to put it. Your RFQ needs to be a structured document. It provides constraints.
So, step one.
Start by sounding established. You can say you're planning for a holiday season or expanding a product line. Then get super specific with your specs.
And this is critical. Use metric dimensions.
Always, don't use inches. It's a global standard, and it's a small detail that shows you know what you're doing.
So if I'm ordering, say, a cotton t-shirt, I can't just say cotton. I have to be more specific.
Way more specific. You need to give them the composition and the weight. So you'd say 100% cotton, 300 GSM.
What does GSM tell them?
It stands for grams per square meter. It's the fabric's density. It tells them the exact quality you expect. If you don't provide that, they'll just assume you're a beginner.
And they'll quote you on the cheapest, lowest quality material to make the price look good.
Precisely. That one detail is like the cost of entry.
Got it. So specs are locked in. Now, we need to show them potential, right? But what if I'm new and I genuinely don't know my volume?
You still have to show a path forward. This is where you ask for pricing at 3 different volume tiers.
Okay, like what?
Ask for their MOQ, their minimum order quantity, then a medium tier like 500 units, and then a bigger one, maybe 2,000.
So you're not just getting a quote for today.
You're showing them your future business. You're demonstrating a growth plan.
And to really lock in that professional status, we have to talk logistics in their language.
Yes. You can't just ask for the product price. You have to use Inca terms.
So instead of what's the price, I should ask.
What is the price? FOB Shanghai, or whatever their nearest port is.
And FOB means free on board.
Right. It tells them you understand how this works, that you'll handle the shipping and insurance from that point on. It just speeds everything up.
Okay, let's talk about a common hurdle. Samples. Why is it that a $5 item suddenly costs like $50 or $100 for a single sample?
It's the cost of their time. They have to literally stop a huge production run, set up a machine just for your one item, and then ship it express air, which is expensive on its own.
Is there a negotiation trick here?
Absolutely. You ask them up front to agree to deduct the sample cost from your first bulk order.
So the sample essentially becomes free if you move forward.
Exactly. And any good established factory will almost always agree to that. It's a great test.
This moves us beyond the purely transactional stuff and into relationship building. Let's talk about guangxi.
It's so important in Asian manufacturing. It basically means rapport, relationship.
And it's the idea that business is personal.
It's fundamentally personal. If you're just aggressive and transactional, you'll get the bare minimum service. But if you're polite, respectful, you build that guangxi.
Which gets you better pricing.
Better pricing, and this is critical prioritization. When their factory is slammed with orders, guess whose order gets shipped first?
The person they have a relationship with. So let's say we've done all this. We sent the perfect RFQ. How do we know if the factory on the other end is actually professional? What's the test?
The reply tells you everything you need to know. Look at the time and the format.
What are you looking for?
A professional factory respects your time. They'll reply within 24 hours. And it won't be an email. It will be a detailed PDF quote.
With breakdowns and photos and
Yes. The major red flag is if you get a one-line email back that just says, price is $5.
What does that tell you?
It tells you they have no internal structure, and that disorganization will plague you every step of the way. You should just run away.
So when you boil it all down, the professional RFQ is about providing clear constraints.
And demonstrating competence. You're making it easy for them to give you an accurate quote.
You're respecting their time.
So they respect yours and move you to the front of the line.
So we've established that prioritizing that rapport, that guangxi, is a critical long-term strategy. That leads us to a final thought for you to consider. How might you leverage that personal relationship to secure better lead times, especially when you know your competitor is only focused on hammering them for a lower transactional FOB price? Something to think about. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to cut right through all the noise. We're looking at the absolute modern architecture of dropshipping.
Yeah.
Finding those critical upgrades that have just completely replaced the old slow methods.
And we have to start with, look, the reality of the situation. Let's call it the death of AliExpress.
The death of AliExpress.
Okay.
Right.
I mean, if you are still fulfilling orders manually or you're relying on their standard shipping, you're guaranteeing failure.
Guaranteed.
A 20 to 40-day wait time. That leads straight to chargebacks, and those chargebacks get your ad accounts banned. And that's not even mentioning the security risk. You're just handing customer data to random vendors.
So if that legacy model is dead, what's the first step? Where do you go? I mean, do you jump straight to finding a private agent, or is there some kind of software that bridges that gap?
The first mandatory move is an aggregator platform. Think of it as middleware.
Middleware.
Okay.
Right.
It's software that sits between your Shopify store and, thousands of Chinese factories. It just consolidates everything. You've got de-essers, which is the official AliExpress partner.
Right.
It's great for automation, one click to pay for 100 orders, that kind of thing. And they have variant mapping for bundling items.
Okay, so DSers help streamline the transaction. But then you have marketplaces like CJdropshipping or Zendrop. They all claim to be faster. Is that just marketing, or is there a real advantage there?
That is the key distinction. They are true marketplaces. They proactively hold their own stock, often in, say, a warehouse in China or even the U.S.
So they have inventory.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And crucially, they do quality control before shipping. And most importantly, they bypass that ancient system called e-packet.
Which is just standard mail, right? Slow.
Terribly slow. These aggregators use private shipping lines instead.
And that brings us to the real secret weapon, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The competitive edge for seven-figure dropshippers. Logistics arbitrage. I think we need to define that. What does that actually look like?
Right. So arbitrage, in this context, it just means you're buying guaranteed speed. You're buying priority capacity. So instead of your package sitting and waiting for space on a commercial airline.
Which could take weeks.
Weeks. These special lines, we're talking about companies like Unexpress, 4PX, they charter their own planes. Or they buy guaranteed slots on them.
Their own planes. Wow. So what's the mechanism once it lands? How do they shave off all that transit time on the ground?
Well, this is the brilliant part. They fly directly into a major hub, like Chicago or JFK, clear customs in these huge consolidated batches, and then they inject your package directly into the local postal system.
So straight into USPS.
Straight into USPS, already labeled as first-class mail. The result is just stunning. You get a 7 to 12-day delivery from China to the U.S., fully tracked.
7 to 12 days. That's a total game changer.
It is. And the rule of thumb is simple. If your current supplier is using anything slower than Unexpress, you have to fire them. Find a replacement.
So that speed and control defines that software tier. But you outgrow it. Once you hit, 50 orders a day, you move on from the platforms to a human private agent. But isn't that a huge risk, relying on just one person?
It is the necessary next stage, and the benefits, they mitigate that risk. A private agent is a logistics professional. They're usually in a hub like Yiwu or Shenzhen.
Right on the ground.
And their job isn't just fulfillment. It's optimizing your entire cost structure. They'll buy your stock in bulk from the factory, which is often way cheaper than any AliExpress price.
And they store it for you.
They store it privately. They do white label packaging, so no Chinese characters on the box ever. And they handle that guaranteed rapid shipping on the special lines we just talked about.
So they're not just a middleman. They are your integrated logistics partner, and they charge you a simple fee for it. Product cost, shipping, plus a small handling fee, like $1 an item.
Exactly. And that model just completely eradicates the risks of the old way. So what does this all mean for you? Well, modern e-commerce success is determined less by running a clever Facebook ad.
Right.
And more by your ability to control the supply chain.
So a final thought for you to explore. If the difference between failure and seven-figure success in this entire architecture is less about the product and more about the speed and control from this logistics arbitrage, what other seemingly simple industries out there are secretly being run by incredibly sophisticated supply chain manipulation? We're going deep today on an operational model that really promises to solve what I think is the #1 problem in e-commerce. That is the volume treadmill. So our mission is to understand why high-ticket items, like $2,000 saunas, fundamentally change the entire game.
It's just like the low-ticket reality is so exhausting. I mean, if you're selling a $20 item and you're making, what, $5 profit?
$5, yeah.
You need 2,000 sales.
There you go.
2,000. Just to hit $10,000 a month.
And that's 2,000 support tickets.
It's 2,000 tracking numbers, 2,000 potential customer issues. You're basically building a job you're going to hate.
That's a powerful way to put it. So you're saying you can drop the required sales by like 99% just by changing the product.
Exactly.
So walk us through the math on, say, that $2,000 item.
Okay, so if you're making $500 to $1,000 of profit on that single sale, suddenly you only need 10 or 20 sales.
10 to 20, not 2,000.
It completely flips the entire business model on its head, but it also means you have to change how you find products.
Right. You're not going to find a premium electric fireplace on AliExpress.
No way. High ticket means you're working with established brands. Often they're domestic, USA or European companies. Think about a company in Texas that makes these heavy-duty outdoor grills. They build it, they stock it. You just do the marketing.
Okay, so for someone listening, how do they actually find and get access to these suppliers?
We call it the Wayfair method. It's actually pretty simple. You just go to a big retailer site like Wayfair or Home Depot, find a brand name you like on a big ticket item.
And then just Google it.
Yeah, you Google the brand name plus the magic words, become a dealer.
Become a dealer. That's the key phrase.
It is. But here's the mindset shift. This is a B2B relationship. It's not just clicking a button. You will probably have to pick up the phone. You have to act like a real retailer, not just some random person online.
That professionalism unlocks the relationship. And with that relationship comes margin protection. Let's talk about the MAP rule.
Yes, MAP, minimum advertised price. This is the brand's best friend, and yours too. They set a price floor. They'll say, you cannot advertise this grill for less than, say, $1,599.
So if the wholesale cost, your net cost, is $1,000.
Your $599 profit is protected. It's locked in. Everyone sells at the same price. If you break MAP to undercut someone, they just cut you off. No more products for you.
Okay, wait. So if everyone is forced to sell at the same price, how do you actually win the sale?
That is the big question. We'll get back to it. But first, let's talk about cash flow, because that trust with the supplier unlocks something else huge. Net 30 terms.
Ah, this is a massive advantage. So instead of paying for the product up front, like with Alex and
You're
Brett,
taking credit.
so you get this amazing positive cash flow. A customer buys a $3,000 chandelier from you today. The cash is in your account today.
Right.
You send the order to the supplier. They ship it. But you don't pay their $1,500 cost for a whole month.
You're using the customer's capital for 30 days. That's 30 days of free financing you can use to buy ads for your next sale. It's an incredible advantage.
Okay, but there has to be a catch. What about the logistics? These things are huge.
They are, and this is the reality check. They don't ship with normal carriers. They ship LTL, less than truckload freight.
And that's where the headaches can start if you're not ready for it.
Absolutely. LTL is almost always curbside delivery. Only. You have to warn the customer explicitly that the driver will not carry a 300-pound sauna into their backyard. You have to tell them you will need 2 strong people to move this.
And you have to always pay the extra $50 for liftgate service.
Always. Don't even think about skipping it. A liftgate is the platform on the back of the truck that lowers the pallet to the ground.
If you don't have it, your customer is staring at a massive crate 4 feet in the air in the back of a truck. Trying to save that $50 is just asking for a massive customer service nightmare.
Exactly. So to recap, you've got high margins protected by MAP pricing. You have financial leverage with net 30 terms, and you just have to manage the LTL logistics properly.
Which brings us all the way back to that first question. Because MAP is mandatory, you can't win on price. The entire game changes. So you have to ask yourself, if the price is the same everywhere, why would a customer buy from you? You have to win by being the best website, the best customer service, the most trusted expert. That's the real deep dive here. Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're going to get into the weeds of professional dropshipping, specifically how these huge global brands can guarantee quality.
Right, without ever physically seeing or, touching the product they sell.
Exactly. We're talking about avoiding what we call the invisible risk.
Yeah.
That's the absolute nightmare scenario where a factory, say, swaps out stainless steel for some cheap alloy.
And you have no idea.
You have no idea until your customers find out for you. And your brand is, well, it's dead in the water.
Exactly. Just trusting the factory, I mean, that's the quickest way to fail in this business. The real defense is a mandatory QC layer.
QC, quality control.
Yes, and it has to be based on statistics, not just, trust.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, checking every single unit would be way too expensive.
Financially impossible. Yeah. So you hire a third-party inspection agency, a company like VTrust or QMA, or you have a private agent do it.
Well, so let's unpack that. What's the industry standard here? I've heard of AQL.
AQL 2.5. That's the benchmark. Acceptable quality limit.
Okay, AQL 2.5. So how does that actually work? How does that give you leverage?
It creates immediate accountability. So let's say you have an order of 1,000 units.
Right.
The inspector doesn't check all 1,000. They pull a random sample, usually 80 units for a batch that size.
Just 80.
Just 80. And here's where it gets really interesting. If they find more than 5 major defects in that little sample,
More than 5?
the entire batch is rejected, the whole thing.
Wow. So the factory just failed the pop quiz.
They did.
Yeah.
And now they have to fix the whole run on their own dime before it can even think about shipping.
That's a huge deal. It totally shifts the financial risk back to them.
Exactly where it belongs.
Okay, so that handles product quality. But let's talk about the customer experience, the packaging.
Oh, this is so important.
Because even if the product is perfect, you can lose the customer if the box tells the wrong story.
Absolutely. We're talking about what's called blind shipping.
Right.
If a supplier puts their own marketing in the box, or worse.
Let me guess, an invoice with the wholesale price.
An invoice with the Chinese price. The customer instantly feels like they've been scammed.
And the experience is just ruined. So what's the fix?
It's a non-negotiable blind ship request. You have to be explicit. No invoices, no marketing, no prices. And if possible, remove the Chinese characters from the shipping label.
And for a little extra, you can even create a branded moment, right?
Yeah, for maybe 20 cents a unit, your agent can slip in your own custom thank you card.
It turns a simple shipment into, a real brand experience.
It does. But now we get to the really hard part, the part that breaks most people.
Returns.
Returns. Most Chinese suppliers, they just don't accept buyer's remorse returns. If it's not broken, it's not their problem.
But as a retailer, you have to offer returns to compete. So you just, eat the cost.
This is where it gets really clever. It's a kind of returns arbitrage.
Arbitrage.
Think about it. The product might cost you, say, $5, but for the customer to ship it all the way back to China, that could easily cost $40.
Right. Way more than the product is worth.
So it makes zero financial sense to actually take the return.
Wait. So you're saying the secret to great customer service is to just give up on the logistics?
Basically, yes. It's far, far cheaper to tell the customer, hey, just keep it or donate it, and then you send them a full refund or a new one.
That is brilliant.
It's a pure systems approach.
So to wrap this up, what it all means is that professional dropshipping, it isn't about hands-on checking. It's about statistical rules like AQL and this kind of clever financial arbitrage.
That's it, exactly. It's all managed from a distance through systems.
So here's a final thought for you to take away. Considering that all of this, the quality checks, the shipping fees, the cost of just letting customers keep returns is all built into the price you pay for things online, how does that hidden infrastructure change how you perceive the value of, everything you buy? Something for you to mull over.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're taking a look at a really critical moment for any e-commerce business. It's that transition point.
Right. The point where you have to graduate from just dropshipping to something more stable if you want to scale.
Exactly. And our mission today is to give you a shortcut, really, a roadmap for that process.
Because if you stay as a pure dropshipper, you eventually hit a ceiling, a really hard ceiling.
And the data on this is pretty clear. It seems to happen right around the $50,000 a month revenue mark, right?
That's the number.
Yeah.
At that point, the standard 10-day shipping time from overseas just kills your conversion rate. You simply can't compete.
You can't. Not when customers expect Amazon Prime speed on everything. So the pivot to owning inventory isn't really optional for growth.
Not at all. It's mandatory.
But that sounds risky. Buying inventory for a whole catalog feels like a huge cash flow problem waiting to happen. How do you de-risk that?
You use data,
Mm-hmm.
and specifically you use the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. That's your roadmap.
Ah, the old 80-20. So 80% of your sales are coming from just 20% of your products.
That's it. Those are your winners. The rest, the other 80% of your catalog, that's the long tail.
So you're not buying everything. You're building a hybrid model based on that split.
Exactly. The game plan is simple. You take your top, say, 3 bestsellers, your absolute biggest winners, And you buy maybe 500 units of each.
And you don't keep them at home. You send them to a U.S. fulfillment center, a 3PL.
A third-party logistics partner, right.
Yeah.
And doing that instantly unlocks 2-day delivery for your best products.
And that's what skyrockets the conversion rate on the items that already make you the most money.
It's a huge lever. Meanwhile, the long tail, all those other products, you just keep drop shipping them from China.
So you get to keep this massive catalog and all that variety, which is great for traffic, without tying up all your cash in products that only sell, a few times a month.
It's the smartest way to do it. You get the best of both worlds.
Okay, that makes sense. But then that raises a tactical question. When does a product earn its promotion? How do you decide to move a product from the long tail into the 3PL?
You have to have a hard rule, a quantifiable threshold. Otherwise, you're just gambling.
And the source material was very specific on this.
Very specific. Do not transition a single SKU, a single product, until it's reliably hitting 300 or more orders per month.
300. Okay, why that specific number? It sounds a little arbitrary.
It's all about the math. It's the unit economics. Below that 300 order threshold, the fees from the 3PL will just eat you alive.
You mean like storage fees and...
Receiving fees, storage fees, and the big one, the pick and pack fee. That's usually about $2 an item.
Wow.
So think about it. If your profit margin is, say, $5 on that item, you're giving up 40% of it just for someone to pull it off a shelf. On a slow-moving product, that turns your profit into a loss really fast.
So the 300 order mark is where the boost in conversion actually outweighs all those new operational costs.
That's the sweet spot.
Okay, so the operational logic is solid. But let's connect this to the end game, the exit, the valuation of the business. Why does all this matter on that macro level?
Oh, it's everything. The difference is night and day. A business that is pure dropshipping with no real assets or IP.
It's seen as less of a real brand.
Right. It's seen as a temporary marketing operation. It typically sells for a 2x multiple on its annual profit, if you're lucky.
2 times. That feels like leaving a massive amount of money on the table.
You are. A massive amount. But a business that's made this hybrid shift, that owns its winning inventory and has stable logistics, that's a real brand.
And that sells for what?
That sells for a 4x, maybe even a 5x multiple.
Wow. So this one strategic shift can literally double the value of your entire company.
Or more. It's not just an operational tweak, it's a fundamental change in how your business is perceived and valued.
That is the ultimate so what. It's not about holding all the inventory, it's about knowing which inventory to hold. The 80-20 rule guides your cash, and the 300 order rule protects your profit.
That's the whole formula. And that leads to a pretty interesting thought for you to take away.
Go on.
Well, if shifting from pure dropshipping to this hybrid model can increase your company's valuation by 100%, you have to ask yourself, what other small operational changes could have a similarly drastic effect on the long-term value of a business? All right, let's get into it. We're doing a deep dive today on the whole print-on-demand ecosystem, POD, for sure.
Right. And your sources really frame this as, the ultimate low-risk, zero-inventory business model.
Exactly. The mechanics behind it are, they're almost beautifully simple. You upload a design.
A customer sees it, loves it, buys that T-shirt for, say, $25.
And then the API, that little digital handshake, sends the order straight to the printer. They make it, they ship it, and they charge you what, maybe $12 for the whole deal?
Leaving you with a $13 margin, it seems incredibly scalable and simple on the surface. But, and this is the critical point your sources make right away, those margins are thin, really thin compared to traditional manufacturing.
You mean like ordering in bulk?
Exactly. If you commit to 1,000 shirts up front, your cost per unit might drop to $4. With POD, you are always paying that $12 one-off price.
So you can't win on price. It's impossible.
You can't. So the whole strategy, the only strategy really, is to compete on 2 things. Exceptional design and a super specific underserved niche.
Which I think throws us right into the great debate that the sources cover.
Printful versus Printify.
The 2 giants.
Yeah.
And they're built on, fundamentally different architectures.
Completely different. If we look at Printful first, they're what you'd call a vertical integrator.
They own everything.
Pretty much. They own the printing machines, the warehouses, they employ the staff, and the big pro there is consistency. You get the same quality every single time.
Which is paramount if you're building a serious brand. You need that reliability.
Absolutely. But the con is that all that overhead, it means higher base costs. And that eats into your margins.
Okay, so that brings us to Printify, the network broker.
Right. Printify owns, well, nothing. No machines, no warehouses. They're just a really smart software layer.
A layer that connects you, the seller, to this huge network of like 50-plus independent print shops.
Places like Monster Digital or Swift PO. The big pro here is competition. All those shops competing for your order drives the price down, which means better margins for you.
But wait a minute. The sources have to address the risk there. If your orders are routed to different printers, doesn't that mean you get variable quality? Like slightly different ink colors or placements?
That's the core tension. It's arbitrage versus assurance. Yes, the quality can vary, but for high-volume sellers, maybe someone capitalizing on a fast-moving trend, the cost savings and speed to market can outweigh that risk.
I see. So it's a strategic choice.
And that contrast is exactly why the sources pivot away from just basic t-shirts. As one of them put it, amateurs sell Gildan 5000s. Architects sell high-value merch.
Let's talk about that high-value merch. What does that actually look like?
It's all about high perceived value. Think all-over print, or AOP. That's where the design is printed on the fabric before it's even sewn.
So you can make these really premium-looking custom hoodies or yoga leggings, things that don't look like a standard print job.
Exactly. Or you move into other categories entirely. Home goods are huge mugs, custom slate coasters, those big Sherpa blankets, even tech accessories.
And the unit economics are just better.
Yeah.
It's much easier to sell a custom blanket for $60 that costs you $30 than it is to sell another t-shirt for $25 that costs you $12.
Absolutely. But even if you do stick with t-shirts, the base product, the blank you print on, is so important.
Okay, let's break that down. You've got the economy tier.
That's your Gildan 5000. It's a bit rough, a bit boxy, totally fine for a disposable meme shirt maybe.
Then you move up to premium. That's the Bella plus Canvas 3001. It's soft, has that modern retail fit, feels like a fashion brand.
And then you have the luxury tier, which is what's driving streetwear right now. The Comfort Color is 1717. It's a heavyweight, has that cool vintage, washed out look.
And the advice across all the sources was unanimous on this.
It was always pay the extra $2 for the premium or luxury blank. It seems small, but it drastically reduces your return rate and builds a customer base that actually comes back.
So boiling it all down, the central choice Printful's integrated system versus Printify's network model, it's really a trade-off between your margin and your quality control.
Right. Which leaves you with a final, really interesting question to think about. If all the sources agree you should invest an extra $2 in a premium blank to essentially buy quality insurance on the material itself.
For reduced returns.
Exactly. So if you're already making that investment, how does that affect the choice to then use Printify's lower cost but potentially inconsistent network? You're paying for quality on the blank, but where does the printing quality assurance fit into that equation? Where is that insurance most vital? Okay, let's dive in. We're going to try to bridge what I call the disappointment gap.
That's a very good name for it.
You know exactly what I mean. You've spent hours on a design, it's glowing on your screen, just vibrant with all those RGB colors.
And then the t-shirt arrives.
And it's just dull, muted. It's because screens and fabric are fundamentally different.
It's pure physics.
Right.
A screen emits light, fabric absorbs it, so you literally cannot print neon. You can't print the light source.
Right.
And with direct-to-garment printing, or DTG, if you don't get the technical files set up right from the very beginning, you're guaranteeing a failed print.
So let's start with the absolute #1 rule, resolution.
300 DPI, dots per inch.
It's not a suggestion, is it?
It's a mandate. It's non-negotiable. The most common pitfall we see is someone grabbing a small 72 DPI image from the web and just trying to scale it up.
And you're not adding information when you do that. You're just stretching.
You're just stretching the pixels.
Yeah.
All you get is that blurry, pixelated mess.
Okay, so 300 DPI. Got it. But this is where it gets a little weird with the color profile.
It feels completely counterintuitive.
Because a printer uses CMYK inks. Cyan, magenta, yellow, black. So you'd think you should send it a CMYK file.
You would absolutely think that. But for DTG, you must work in sRGB.
Wait, why? That seems totally backward.
Well, the software on these modern printers is it's incredibly smart. It's configured to do a much better, much more accurate color conversion from the wider sRGB color range itself.
So if I convert it to CMYK first on my computer.
You're forcing a double conversion.
Yeah.
Once by you, and then again by the machine software. And that's what creates that dull, muddy look everyone's trying to avoid.
Fascinating. And what about the file type?
It has to be a PNG.
For the transparent background?
Yes. If you upload a JPG, even one with a white background that looks transparent, it's not. The printer will print a big, solid white box around your graphic.
An instant giveaway of an amateur design. Okay, so that brings us to the biggest failure point I see, the black shirt problem.
Yes, the underbase risk.
So when you print on a dark garment, the printer has to put down a layer of white ink first, right?
It does. It's called a white underbase. It's a foundation, so the colors you print on top actually look bright and don't just get swallowed by the dark fabric.
Makes total sense. So where's the risk?
The risk is in semi-transparent pixels.
Like a drop shadow or smoke effect that fades out?
Exactly. Anything with, say, 50% opacity. The printer sees that partial transparency and it just prints the white underbase right through it.
Oh, no.
You get these awful, ugly white speckles all around the edges of your design.
So the rule is it has to be all or nothing.
Harsh but necessary. On dark garments, every single pixel must be either 100% opaque or 100% transparent. No gradients that fade to nothing.
Okay, let's shift from ink to thread. Embroidery.
A completely different animal.
You can't just upload a picture for this one.
Not at all. The file has to be digitized. That's the verb. Digitization is a process that converts your visual image into a map of X and Y coordinates.
It's literally a set of instructions for the needle to follow.
Precisely. You end up with a file, like an EMB or a DST. And because you're using a physical needle and thread, there are hard limits.
You can't do gradients.
Nope. And tiny little text just becomes an unreadable blob. But the most important thing to understand is cost. Cost is based on stitch count.
Meaning a solid, filled-in circle costs way more than just the thin outline of a circle.
Significantly more. It might be thousands more stitches. So the whole game changes to simplification. You have to think in thick lines and solid blocks of color.
So, to wrap this up, if you want to avoid that disappointment gap, there are 3 takeaways.
3 pillars. Number 1, always designed at 300 DPI.
Number 2, trust the printer software and use the sRGB color profile.
And number 3, if you're printing on a dark garment, you need 0 semi-transparent pixels, 100% on or 100% off.
Simple enough?
Right.
Yeah.
But I'll leave you with one final thought to chew on. We just established that embroidery cost is tied directly to the mechanical reality of stitch count. So how might understanding that physical constraint from day one fundamentally change how you draft a logo in the first place?
You mean designing for simplicity from the very first sketch?
Exactly. Even if you only ever plan to print it. How does knowing the limits of one medium make your design stronger across all of them? Something for you to think about.
Okay, let's jump right in. We're doing a deep dive on dynamic print on demand today. And the goal really is to get into the weeds of the tech, the actual engineering that lets you turn a simple idea into these high-margin personalized products.
Yeah, and before we even touch the tech side, we have to talk about the psychology, because that's what makes this whole thing work.
Right.
I mean, think about it. You see a generic world's best dad mug, and you might pay, what, $15 for it? That's kind of the ceiling.
Okay, sure, $15.
But the second you let a customer put a name on it, or a photo, suddenly that same mug starts at $25. It's a price floor, not a ceiling.
And there's a name for that effect, isn't there?
There is. It's called the IKEA effect. Sources we looked at are pretty clear on this.
The IKEA effect.
Because you helped build it.
Exactly. Because you participated in creating it, you feel this sense of ownership. And that feeling drives conversion rates up by something like 40%. It's huge. 40% is. That's a massive number. But I guess that only works if the process is, smooth.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, imagine trying to do this manually. Fielding emails for every single photo, every custom name. You'd be completely overwhelmed. It just can't scale.
No way. So that's where the specific software comes in.
That's where it has to come in. You need a dedicated product personalizer app. The big ones are tools like Zepto Product Personalizer or Teen Blue.
Okay, so if I'm a customer on a site using one of those apps, how does it work? How do I see my custom text appear on the product, instantly?
Right. So what's happening in your browser is actually pretty clever. The app overlays what's called an HTML5 canvas on top of the product photo.
A canvas. Okay.
And all the rendering, all that magic happens on your machine. It's client side. So when you type, say, Rover for a dog bowl, it's just your browser drawing that text onto the canvas in real time. That's why it's so fast.
I see. So that handles simple text. But what about the really complex stuff, like those build-your-own-family shirts where you pick hairstyles and skin tones and everything?
Yeah, that's the next level. You can't just rely on text for that.
I mean, the number of combinations must be astronomical. You're not creating an image for every single possibility, are you?
No, not at all. That would be impossible. This is where the engineering gets really smart. It uses something called clip art libraries.
Clipper library, so you just have a folder of hairstyles.
Pretty much. You upload all the components as separate little images. 50 hairstyles, 20 skin tones, 10 body types, whatever it is. And they're all PNG files with transparent backgrounds.
Ah, so they're layers.
They're just layers. The app just follows the user's clicks. If you click mom, then blonde, then fair skin, the software is just stacking those specific PNGs in the right order to build the final illustration on the fly.
Wow. So behind a simple click, it's basically running a script that says layer C on top of layer B on top of layer A.
That's all it is. But then comes the most critical part of the whole process.
Which is?
Turning that live preview into something a printer can actually use, an engineering output.
And I'm guessing the preview I saw in my browser isn't good enough for a real-world print job.
Not even close. I mean, that preview is a low-resolution JPG. It's designed to be fast, not perfect.
Yeah.
The file that actually gets sent to the print provider has to be a high-resolution 300 DPI PDF.
300 dots per inch, so for quality.
For quality.
Yeah.
Anything less, and the final product looks blurry or pixelated. But it's not just the resolution. The alignment is everything.
What do you mean by alignment?
Well, that app, the personalizer, it has to be configured to export a file with the exact dimensions the printer needs. Say, 4,500 pixels by 5,400 pixels for a t-shirt.
I see.
If that file is off, even by a tiny bit, the final print will be off-center on the actual shirt. And that's a wasted product and a customer refund every single time. The margin for error is basically zero.
So the whole business really comes down to a marriage of two things. The consumer psychology of that IKEA effect and this totally invisible technical precision in the background. The file output, the layer stacking.
It's the hidden dependency. The entire custom experience, everything the customer loves, it all hinges on the difference between two files. The quick, low-res preview they see, and the precise, high-res PDF they never even know exists.
Which kind of leaves you with a final thought, doesn't it? It makes you wonder, what other industries, other things you buy or use every day, rely on such a critical, hidden engineering step that the customer is just completely unaware of?
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today our mission is, well, pretty straightforward. We're looking to extract some real, concrete strategies for elevating the customer experience in print on demand.
Right. And we're building an action plan from your sources.
Exactly. And the core problem that kept coming up, the thing we have to tackle first, is what the sources call the white label weakness.
It's a fascinating term because the very thing that makes POD so efficient, the automation, the hands-off fulfillment, is also its biggest branding problem.
Okay, so let's unpack that right away. What do we mean by the white label weakness?
Well, it's really the architecture of the whole system. When your customer orders a t-shirt, the provider just ships it in the cheapest, most efficient way possible.
Which is that, that generic gray plastic poly mailer.
That's the one. The customer gets a product with absolutely no personality, no branding, no excitement. It just feels functional.
And cheap.
No.
It feels cheap, and this is the key. It generates zero social share value. Nobody is posting a boring gray bag on their Instagram.
Not a chance. You're leaving free marketing on the table. If you want to charge a premium price, you need to deliver a premium experience. And the good news is, fixing this can start for free.
Okay, so this is the lowest hanging fruit, the custom packing slip.
Yes. Almost every big provider, your Printfuls, Printifys, Gutens of the world, they all offer this for free. You just upload a simple black and white logo.
The logistics are easy, but I think the strategy is where people fall down. They just put thank you on it.
Which is such a waste of prime real estate. You need to treat this slip of paper like it's a mini billboard for your brand. Write a short manifesto, or at the very least, make sure your support email is front and center. It's an instant trust builder.
And to fix that social share problem we just talked about, you need a call to action.
Absolutely. The crucial missing piece. Something specific like snap a photo and tag us at brand name for a chance to be featured. You've just turned a packing slip into a marketing funnel.
Okay, so that's the baseline. But for brands that are really serious, there's the next level, the premium tier, branded inserts.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting. This is what separates the serious brands from just the casual sellers.
But wait, that sounds like a logistical nightmare for a POD business. Wait, how do you even do that? Do you mail a box of postcards to the fulfillment center?
That is precisely how it works. You'd use a third-party printer, say a Moo or Vistaprint, to bulk order maybe 1,000 postcards or sticker sheets.
And you ship them straight to your provider's warehouse.
Exactly. Now, this is a paid service. It's not free.
So what's the cost look like on something like that?
Well, using Printful as a sort of benchmark, they'll stock your insert and then charge a picking fee every time they put one in a package. It's usually around 75 cents per order.
Okay, so 75 cents plus what, maybe 10 cents for the card itself? You're looking at about 85 cents an order.
Roughly, yeah.
That feels like it could really eat into your margins. Why do the sources say it pays for itself 10 times over?
2 words. Lifetime value. LTV. If that little card has a code on it for 15% off your next order, and that nudges just 5% of your customers to buy again.
Ah, I see. That 85-cent investment just drove a whole new sale.
A whole new sale that you wouldn't have gotten otherwise. You've just monetized the unboxing experience. It pays for itself almost instantly.
Okay, so what about the outside of the package? Full custom mailers seem like they're out of reach for most POD sellers.
They are. The inventory commitment is huge.
Yeah.
So we use what the sources call the sticker strategy.
The sticker?
A simple branded sticker. You just ask your provider if they can apply one to the outside of the generic package. It's a low-cost, high-visibility way to give the package an identity before it's even opened.
So if we boil all this down, what's the one core principle here?
It's all the perception game. In print on demand, the physical thing you're selling, the t-shirt, the mug, it's a commodity. Anyone can sell it.
Right.
The only way you can charge a premium, the only way you survive, is to wrap that commodity in a valuable brand.
So the product might be outsourced, but the experience, the brand, that's to be owned by you.
Exactly. And you have to remember that unboxing moment is the very first physical piece of your brand that your customer ever touches. So the question you need to ask is, what message is your gray plastic bag sending right now? Okay, let's dive in. We're unpacking manufacturing agreements today, and our sources are pretty direct about this.
You really are.
This is not casual dating with a factory. We're talking about a business marriage, and you absolutely have to have a contract.
That's the perfect way to frame it. Our mission in this deep dive is to define the two main types of these relationships and, more importantly, to reveal the really high-cost mistakes.
And it all seems to hinge on one thing, intellectual property, the IP.
Everything. It all comes down to who holds the IP. That single point determines who really has the power.
So that brings us right to the first major fork in the road, right? OEM versus ODM.
Exactly.
Let's start with OEM. That's original equipment manufacturer. This is for the true inventor, yeah.
That's the path if you have a unique design.
Yeah.
In an OEM setup, you are providing the blueprints, the CAD file, the exact specs. The factory is basically just running the machine for you.
Like hiring a contractor to build my custom house using my blueprints.
Perfect analogy. You own the design, you own the IP, and critically, you own the tooling used to make it.
Okay, so let's flip that. What about ODM, original design manufacturer?
ODM is the, let's call it the speed to market option. It's often called private label.
This is the factory has already designed the product.
Exactly. They have a ready-made product.
Yeah.
And you're just asking them to, change the color or slap your logo on it.
And the critical consequence here is
the factory owns the design. They own the IP. They can, and they probably will, sell the exact same product to your biggest competitor tomorrow.
Wow. Okay, this is where things can get really disastrous for your cash flow then. The mold fee trap. If you're building a custom OEM product, you have to pay for tooling. These are the big physical metal casts that shape your product.
And that cost is not trivial. It can be anywhere from, $2,000 to even $20,000.
That's a huge upfront cost. I can see how the trap gets set. The factory offers to pay for it.
Right. They'll say, look, don't worry about the mold cost. We'll cover it, and you'll make it up in volume later.
Which sounds amazing if you're trying to save cash.
It sounds great. But by letting them pay, you have legally given them ownership of your mold.
And if they own the mold, what leverage do they have?
They have all of it.
Yeah.
They own your supply chain. If you want to switch to a better or cheaper factory, you can't. You lose the tool, and you have to pay that full $20,000 all over again at the new place.
So what's the fix? It sounds mandatory.
It is. You must pay for the tooling up front yourself, and you must have a contract that explicitly states the buyer retains sole ownership of all tooling. End of story.
Okay, let's move on to legal protection. Everyone knows about an NDA, the non-disclosure agreement.
Sure.
But our sources are really clear that a standard NDA is often, useless in cross-border manufacturing, especially in places like China.
It just doesn't have the teeth you need, which is why you need to go a step further to what's called an NNN agreement.
Right, an NNN, and I'm guessing this isn't some free template you can just pull off the internet.
No, you really need a specialized lawyer for this. The risk of getting it wrong is just far too high. It's about protecting your entire business, not just one idea.
So what are the 3 N's?
It stands for non-use, non-disclosure, and the really important one, non-circumvention.
Okay, so non-use, they can't use the idea for themselves. Non-disclosure, they can't tell anyone else. What does non-circumvention stop?
That's the key. It stops them from going behind your back and selling your product directly to your customers.
Cutting you out of the loop entirely.
It prevents them from cutting you out of your own business.
So when we boil this all down, the synthesis is pretty clear. Whether it's OEM or ODM, you have to know exactly where the intellectual property lives.
That's everything. That one distinction dictates your risk, your costs, and how much control you actually have.
The mold fee, the NNN, it's all about maintaining control.
It is. And that brings us to a final thought for you to sort of mull over. We've seen the risks when an ODM factory owns the IP. So ask yourself this. If the factory owns your blueprints, how much control do you really have over quality when they decide, without telling you, to swap in a cheaper raw material? Or tweak a design spec to save a few pennies?
How can you enforce quality
when you don't even own the foundation of your own product? That's something to keep exploring. All right, welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're getting into something that sounds complicated, but is super important. Global logistics.
It really is. We want to turn all that jargon into something you can actually use.
Exactly. We're on a mission to define that one critical moment. When does the liability for your goods transfer from the factory to you? Because that right there controls your total cost.
That's it. Look, if a factory quotes you $5 for a product, that number is, well, it's pretty much useless by itself.
Useless without the INCA term.
Yes, the international commercial term. It's the rule that defines where the seller's job ends and yours begins. It's not just about risk, it's about who pays for what and when.
Okay, so let's start at one extreme end of that risk spectrum. Let's talk about EXW or XWorks. I mean, why would anyone choose this? It seems like maximum risk for the buyer.
Well, it gives the factory the absolute lowest price they can quote. EXW means the price is only for the product, sitting on their factory floor. That's it.
Just sitting there.
Just sitting there. So your job is everything else. Hiring the truck, managing the export customs, booking the ship. If that truck crashes 1 mile from the factory gate,
it's your loss. Completely.
Your loss.
Wow. Okay, that sounds like a headache I don't want. So let's pivot to what you see most often, the B2B industry standard, which is FOB, free on board.
Right. FOB is the balanced approach. It's the middle ground. So if a quote says FOB Shenzhen, that means the factory is responsible for all costs to get those goods onto the ship at the port in Shenzhen.
Ah, so your headache, your financial liability, it only starts once the ship is actually, on its way.
Precisely. It's the benchmark. Everything else is sort of compared against FOB.
Which brings us to the other extreme, the I don't want any headaches at all option, which comes with what we call the convenience tax, DDP.
DDP. Delivered, duty paid. This is the full door-to-door service. The factory handles it all, the shipping, the customs, the tariffs, the final delivery to your warehouse.
So minimum risk for me.
Minimum operational risk for sure, but, and this is a big but, it comes at the maximum cost.
Why is that?
Because the factory isn't a logistics company. They're hiring people to do it and then marking up that service, often by a lot. They're making a profit on the shipping itself.
Okay, so if we want to beat that DDP price, we have to manage the transport ourselves. Let's talk about those options. It's the classic trade-off, right? Speed versus cost.
Always. First, you have air freight. It's incredibly fast, maybe 5 to 7 days from China to the U.S., but it's expensive. You're looking at maybe $5, sometimes $8 per kilogram.
Whoa, so that's really only for product samples or a desperate emergency restock.
Exactly. Or for very small, light, high-value items like jewelry. For any real volume, you have to look at sea freight.
Which is slow.
Very slow. 30, 45 days on the water. But it is so much cheaper. We're talking maybe 50 cents to $2 per kilogram. That cost difference is enormous.
And if you're going by sea, you have another choice to make about the container, right?
Yeah.
LCL versus FCL.
Yeah. LCL is less than container load. You're basically sharing space in a container with other people's stuff. It's flexible, but your goods get handled more, so there's a slightly higher risk of damage.
And FCL?
FCL is full container load. You rent the whole 20-foot or 40-foot box. It's all yours. It's more secure. And if you have the volume, it's way, way cheaper on a per-unit basis.
Okay, so if we take control, we go with FOB, we pick our freight method. We need someone to actually manage all this. We're not calling the shipping line ourselves.
No. That's where you hire a freight forwarder.
the cargo travel agent.
That's a great way to put it. Companies like Flexport or Freightos, they are your experts. They manage the whole process, and they handle the single most important document, the bill of lading.
And that's not just a ticket for your goods, is it?
Not at all. It's the document of title. It's proof of ownership. You need it for customs, for insurance. You can't get your goods without it.
So here's the most actionable thing we found, really the core strategy. You should always be comparing two numbers. The factory's all-in DDP quote versus your own calculation. The FOB product price plus a separate quote from your own freight forwarder.
100%. The forwarder you hire directly is almost always going to be cheaper than the factory's hidden markup, and you get so much more visibility into where your stuff actually is.
So what this really all means is that understanding these terms, these Inca terms, it's like learning the language of global trade. It lets you shift from being a passive buyer to, well, an active manager of your own costs.
It's all about control. So think about this. If you know the factory's DDP price is designed to make them extra profit on logistics, what opportunities do you have right now to start using the FOB standard, find your own forwarder, and turn those hidden costs into a real competitive advantage for your business? All right, welcome to the deep dive. Today, our mission is to really get into the weeds on the mandatory toll booth of international trade.
We're talking about customs, duties, and that mysterious HTS code.
Exactly. The goal here is to unpack what you need to know to avoid some major financial traps when you're importing goods into the USA.
And that toll, it really comes in two main flavors you have to watch out for.
Okay, what are they?
First, there's the standard duty. That's sort of the general tax on imports. But then you have the tariff.
The one you always hear about in the news.
That's the one. It's highly political, sometimes punitive. Think of things like the Section 301 tariffs against goods from China.
Okay, so let's unpack that, because the actual cost isn't fixed, right?
Yeah.
What determines the tax rate you actually end up paying?
It all comes down to one really crucial thing, the HTS code.
Right. The Harmonized Tariff Schedule Code.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's this 6 to 10-digit number, and it's how U.S. Customs categorizes every single product that comes into the country.
And this is where it gets fascinating, because that classification, that number, determines your tax rate. I've seen these examples where tiny differences mean huge savings.
Oh, absolutely. The classification game it's very high stakes.
Yeah.
So imagine you're importing a bag.
Okay.
If you classify it as a backpack, your duty might be, say, 20%.
Yeah.
But if that exact same item technically meets the definition of a reusable shopping bag, that duty could plummet to just 5%.
Wait, that's a 15% margin difference? Just from the description?
It's a 15% swing, all based on how you document the item. It's huge.
So with an incentive that big, what's the risk? What if an importer tries to, game the system and just call everything a shopping bag?
The risk is, frankly, total loss. If customs finds you've intentionally misclassified something,
they'll catch on.
They can seize your entire shipment. And even worse, they can actually ban you from importing into the U.S. again. Accuracy isn't just a good idea. It's essential.
Okay, so you get the classification right. What's the next mandatory step? I've heard you need a customs bond for anything over a certain value.
You do. Anything valued at $2,500 or more needs a customs bond.
And there are different types, right?
Yes, and this is a key tip. If you think you'll import 3 or more times in a year, you have to get the continuous bond. It's about $500 for the year.
And that covers everything.
Unlimited shipments. It saves you a fortune compared to buying a single entry bond every single time. It's a no-brainer for a real business.
Got it. So you need a professional for this, a customs broker. What is their main job, and what's the biggest deadline trap they handle?
Their most critical task, the one that causes the most pain, is the ISF filing, the importer security filing.
And the deadline on that is tight.
It's incredibly tight. It has to be completed and filed 24 hours before the ship even leaves the port in, say, China.
Wait, 24 hours before, at least, not before it arrives.
Before it leaves, and that's the trap. If you miss that deadline, it's an immediate $5,000 fine from U.S. Customs.
Wow, so you're out $5,000 before your products are even on the water.
Exactly. It's a painful lesson for a lot of new importers.
Okay, so speaking of avoiding costs, let's talk about the big exception, the one everyone's talking about now, the de minimis rule.
Right. This is Section 321, and it's a huge deal. Here's the rule.
Yeah.
In the USA, any shipment valued under $800 sent directly to one person is completely duty-free.
Under $800 is duty-free. So how does that play out for different businesses, like a dropshipper versus a bulk importer?
It's a completely different world. The dropshipper sending, 100 different $50 orders to 100 different customers.
They all fall under the $800 limit.
So they pay $0 in duty.
Mm.
But if you import one container of goods worth, say, $50,000 to your warehouse, you pay the full duty and tariffs on that 50 grand.
So there's a huge strategic advantage there for direct-to-consumer shipping.
A massive one. And it's why you see some clever brands using a 3PL, a logistics provider, in Canada or Mexico. They ship bulk there, then send individual duty-free packages across the border into the U.S. It's a way to legally bypass those bulk tariffs.
So if we bring this all together for someone listening, what are the key takeaways?
It really boils down to two things. First, understand the HTS code to manage your costs legally. And second, know your deadlines, especially that ISF filing, to avoid those huge immediate fines.
It's about knowing the rules of the game before you play.
Exactly. And to leave you with a final thought, if one classification decision, just backpack versus reusable shopping bag, can save or cost you 15% of your margin, just think about it. How many other seemingly small details in product descriptions or compliance might be out there, just waiting to unlock massive, perfectly legal savings? That's where the real advantage is found. All right, welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're jumping into manufacturing and private labeling, but specifically, we're going to talk about what might be the most expensive piece of cardboard you'll ever buy, your packaging.
Mm-hmm.
And our mission, really, is to show you how the physical shape of a box isn't just a design choice. It's like structural engineering for your profit margins. Because most people, when they're thinking about shipping costs, they just assume it's all based on how heavy the package is.
Right. That's the trap. That is exactly the trap. Everyone assumes it's just about weight, and that's precisely where they lose money. The major carriers, FedEx, UPS, DHL, they don't just charge you by the pound. They charge by something called dimensional weight.
Dim
weight. Dim weight. It's basically a financial penalty for shipping empty air.
Okay, so let's dig into that. The classic example you always hear is the pillow.
The pillow, yes.
It weighs, what, a pound? Next to nothing? But it takes up so much space that they charge you as if it weighed 20 pounds. So how do they actually calculate that?
It's all in the formula. And this is the crucial part for anyone listening. The formula is length times width times height, all divided by 139.
139.
139. That's the standard U.S. dimensional factor. It's the number that converts volume into a chargeable weight. It holds all the power.
Wow. So right from the get-go, a designer has to think like a logistics expert. It's a puzzle.
It really is. I mean, think about what we'd call a bad design. It's just a rigid box that's, 2 inches bigger than the product on every single side.
So you're paying for bubble wrap.
You're paying to ship bubble wrap and empty air. Exactly. The solution is smarter engineering. A good design might use a custom-molded pulp tray or maybe a vacuum-sealed bag.
Right, something that holds it tight.
Yes, and that actually protects the product better than just throwing bubble wrap in there. You can reduce your volume by 50% sometimes.
Which brings us to a really interesting case study, the shoebox.
Oh.
Standard shoe boxes are notoriously full of dead space. But some of these new eco brands, they've cut their shipping costs by up to 30% just by switching to a pouch or like a collapsible box.
It's a huge saving.
Okay, so let's shift gears a little. Let's talk about the bulk side of things. The master carton.
Right. So this is the big box that all your individual product boxes go into for freight shipping.
And durability here must be everything.
Absolutely. These things have to be double-walled, sometimes even triple-walled corrugated cardboard. They need to survive a trip halfway across the world.
And there's a test for that, isn't there?
There is. It's called the carton drop test. The factory literally has to take a full master carton and drop it from 1 meter high onto a corner.
Onto a corner, wow.
And if the product inside breaks, the packaging fails. Simple as that.
And then you have the required legal stuff on the outside, the shipping marks.
Critical. You cannot mess these up. The master carton has to have the SKU, the net weight, the gross weight, the carton number, like 1 of 50.
And the big one.
And the country of origin. Made in China or wherever. If you get those marks wrong or they're missing, you're looking at huge customs delays, more hidden costs.
So let's bring it back to the customer for a second. The whole unboxing experience. I think we've all felt it, right? You buy something expensive and it arrives in a flimsy plastic bag. It just feels wrong.
It devalues the product in your mind.
Exactly. So on the cheap end, you have those poly mailers, maybe 10 cents. No protection, but fine for clothes.
Then you step up to a corrugated mailer. That's maybe 50 cents. Stronger, good for subscription boxes.
And then at the very top,
You have the rigid box, the heavy, luxury iPhone-style box that can run you anywhere from $2 to $5 per box.
that's a huge expense.
It is. And that brings us to the central strategic takeaway here. You should only spend that kind of money on packaging if you know it increases the perceived value enough to justify raising your retail price.
So it all comes back to the bottom line.
It all connects. Efficient packaging isn't just a line item cost. It's a critical piece of logistics engineering and strategic marketing all rolled into one.
So the final thought for you to consider is this. Knowing how high the structural costs and those dim weight penalties are, what kind of product could truly justify spending $5 on a luxury box over a simple 10-cent poly mailer? Is that unboxing moment really worth that much more to your customer? That's the dilemma. Okay, so let's unpack this. Today, we are diving into something that seems small, but really holds massive logistics operations together.
It really does.
We're talking about inventory architecture, specifically how you name your stock keeping units.
Exactly. And our mission today is to get you beyond those, classic amateur mistakes. We want to build a speed that tells a complete story instantly.
So what's the biggest mistake, the number one thing you see that just causes chaos?
Oh, it's the random number mistake, hands down. Just using an auto-generated number from your system or something simple like 1001.
Right.
Imagine you're a warehouse worker. You get a pick list that says pick item 1001. You have absolutely zero context. Is it a bolt? Is it a sofa?
And that hesitation, that moment of confusion, that's where the profit leaks out, right?
Yeah.
All those tiny moments add up to huge mispick rates.
It's a direct line to sending the wrong item, which means returns, unhappy customers. All because of 4 lazy digits. So the core solution really is what we call the intelligent SKU naming convention.
Okay, so if random numbers are out, what's the structure that prevents this kind of meltdown? I mean, this sounds great, but mapping every single t-shirt to, 5 different segments must add a lot of overhead.
It seems like it, but the structure is what saves you time. We use dashes to separate the logic. It looks like this. Category, product, variant, size, version.
Okay, let's break that down with the example from the source. It was APPT BLK LGV2.
Perfect example.
So we can see right away, APP is apparel, T is a t-shirt, BLK is black, LG is large. That all makes sense. But the V2, why is that there? Why not just call it a new product?
That's a great question, and it's critical. V2 is for an internal change that the customer doesn't see. So maybe the fabric was improved or you switched suppliers.
So it's visually identical.
Visually identical. This way, your internal teams can track quality control without cluttering up the sales channel with, new and improved t-shirt.
And that clarity is where you get this huge boost in scalability. What's so interesting is how simple alphabetical sorting suddenly becomes a superpower.
Exactly. You sort a huge spreadsheet and boom, all your APP items are together, all your ACC for accessories are together. It brings order to chaos. And your WMS, your warehouse management system, absolutely loves these distinct dashed strings.
Right. For a computer, that's perfect. But these things get printed on labels, which brings up that huge operational warning from the sources, the ambiguity problem.
Oh, absolutely. You must never, ever use a 0, 0 and the letter O, or a 1 and the letter I.
Because they just look the same on a poorly printed label.
And that is the fastest way to get a massive inventory count error. It's a simple rule, but it saves so much trouble.
Okay, that makes perfect sense for single items. But what about product bundles? That's where it gets more complicated, right? The master ski concept.
Right. So if you sell a gym kit, say 1 mat and 1 block, that kit needs its own SKU. Let's call it Kiki GIYM01.
But the system has to know what's inside that kit when it sells.
Precisely. The WMS has to know that Kiti GYM01 is actually a map to the component item. So it's 1 EQP mat BLK plus 1 EQP does BLK or Kirk.
And if it doesn't do that, you're creating what? Like phantom inventory.
Phantom inventory. You sell 10 kits, but the system doesn't deduct the 10 mats and 10 blocks from your stock. So you end up selling components you don't actually have.
A total disaster for fulfillment.
It is. So the big takeaway here is the power of this one, seemingly small string of text. It drives accuracy, speed, and system compatibility.
Building on that idea of versioning and ambiguity, here's something to think about. If a company sells identical shirts, but they get them from 2 different factories with slight, quality-controlled fabric variations, how many levels deep does their versioning have to go before the system itself just becomes too complex to manage, something to mull over?
Barcodes. They seem so simple, right? Just a bunch of black lines on, a white background.
Mhm.
But they are the absolute bedrock of global inventory architecture. And if you get this one tiny detail wrong, Amazon will ban your listing. I mean, before your product even leaves the port.
Oh, absolutely. It's a brutal but critical first step.
So today we're doing a deep dive. We're cutting through all the noise to show you exactly which barcode you need to sell globally, and crucially, how to avoid the single most expensive mistake new sellers make.
That's the one that gets everyone.
Okay, so let's unpack this. What is the actual difference between, say, a sticker I print in my warehouse and a universal code that works at Walmart or anywhere?
Right, so that's the core distinction.
The first one, that's just an internal barcode, right? If you're just tracking things within your own facility.
Exactly. It just encodes your SKU, your stock keeping unit, and that's fine for your four walls, but that's it.
But the moment you want to sell to the world, Amazon, Google Shopping, any retailer, that's not going to cut it.
Not even close. You have to step up to the external barcode standard. And that means you must use a GTIN.
The global trade item number.
That's the one. It's the internationally recognized unique ID for a product. There's nothing else like it.
I always just assumed a barcode was a random number. I never realized there was this whole global system behind it.
Most people don't.
So we have the GTIM, but then you see these other terms like UPC and EN. What's going on there?
Yeah, they can be a little confusing. Think of them as necessary regional dialects of the same GTIN language. The 12-digit UPC is the standard for North America.
Okay.
And the 13-digit EAN is basically for Europe and the rest of the world. Logistically, they're almost identical now, but the system still needs to know which one you're using.
And here's where it gets really interesting for me. Who controls this whole language? Who's the arbiter?
That would be GS1.
GS1.
They're a nonprofit, but they essentially manage this data utility for the entire planet. They're the gatekeepers of legitimacy.
So how does that work? I can't just make one up.
No, you have to lease, and I use that word intentionally, a company prefix directly from them. So your business might lease, say, the prefix 89450.
And that prefix is uniquely mine.
Uniquely yours, globally. That prefix guarantees you can then generate all your own valid product codes like 8945000010002, and so on.
And that lease, that's not cheap. That can be, what, $250 or more just to get started with GS1 US?
It is a barrier to entry. And that cost, naturally, creates a market for a shortcut.
The cheap UPC reseller. This is the massive red flag we need to talk about.
Yes. Avoid those codes you see advertised for $5. Just avoid them at all costs.
Why? I mean, what even are they?
They are secondhand codes. They were recently registered by GS1 to a completely different company, often one that went out of business years ago. Think Bob's Plumbing from 1995.
Okay, but if the code scans, why does Amazon or Walmart care who the original registrant was?
Because they don't just scan it. They run what you could call an Amazon audit. They take the first part of that code, your company prefix, and they check it against the official GS1 database. So if your brand name on Amazon is Cool Shoes, but the GS1 database says that code belongs to Bob's Plumbing,
they think something fishy is going on.
They assume you're misrepresenting your product or even counterfeiting, and your listing is banned immediately. No appeal.
Wow. So the mandatory takeaway here is crystal clear. To protect your business, always, always buy your codes directly from GS1 US or your local chapter. Period.
It is the only safe way. Then, once you have that valid GTIN, you still have some logistics to think about.
Right, like for Amazon FBA.
For FBA, yes. Amazon needs its own internal tracking code, the FNSKU. That sticker identifies you as the specific seller of that unit, and very often you're required to place it directly over the manufacturer's UPC.
And placement of the barcode itself is critical, isn't it, for the scanners to work?
Absolutely. It has to be on a totally flat surface, high contrast, so black on white is best.
Yeah.
And make sure it's scannable. Don't use a low-risk printer.
And no clear tape over it, right? Causes glare.
Exactly. And the big one, don't wrap it around a small bottle or a cylinder. If the bars get crinkled or distorted, the scanner just won't read it.
So to sum this all up, what does this all mean for someone starting out?
It means the global standard run by GTIN and GS1 is the unavoidable barrier to entry. It's highly policed.
And understanding that the Amazon audit is real and avoiding that reseller scam, that's the knowledge that keeps your products in the game.
It really is. And, this whole system raises an important question for you to think about. Given that GS1 effectively controls global product ID, and its earliest members had these really low desirable company prefixes, What are the broader logistical or even competitive advantages of owning a low-number prefix versus one that was just issued last week? Something for you to mull over as you build out your own inventory architecture. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we are getting into something really specific, the operational architecture of third-party logistics, or 3PLs.
Right.
And our goal here isn't just to define what they are, but to really pinpoint that moment when you, the business owner, need to stop packing boxes in your garage and hand it over.
This is such a critical point. It really determines if a business actually scales or just stays stuck.
Yeah.
We see so many people fall into what we call the garage trap.
The garage trap. I love that. So why a trap? I mean, when you're starting out, doing it yourself feels like the only option.
Of course, you get that amazing quality control.
You can slip in those handwritten notes.
Exactly.
Yep.
But it's just not financially sustainable. The key metric, and our sources are pretty clear on this, is when you hit between 300 and 500 orders a month.
300 to 500.
Once you're there, you are spending hours a day on what is, frankly, $15 an hour work. You're the CEO. Your time is worth more. That's the signal.
Okay, so that number, that 300 500 window, that's the magic number. So once you decide to make that jump, how does a 3PL actually work? What's the mechanism?
So at its simplest, a 3PL is just a warehouse that stores and ships your products for you. But the real magic is in the tech, the technical architecture.
It all connects to your store like Shopify or something.
Precisely. It connects through something called an API.
And an API, just for everyone listening, that's basically the bridge that lets two different software systems talk to each other automatically, right?
That's a perfect way to put it. So a customer buys something on your site. The Shopify API instantly tells the 3PL's warehouse management system, their WMS, hey, new order.
And the WMS handles it from there.
Yep. It tells a picker where your stuff is, generates the label, and then once it's shipped, it pushes that tracking number right back to Shopify. And that whole loop is what saves you all that time.
That sounds incredibly smooth, but I imagine the bill for all that automation isn't so simple. I've heard 3PLs are notorious for hidden fees.
You have to read the fine print. You really do. We can sort of break the costs down into 4 main buckets.
Okay, what are they?
First is receiving. That's the fee just to unload your container and check it in. Usually about, say, $15 per pallet.
For the forklift time and labor?
Exactly. Then the second cost is storage, which is, well, it's just rent.
Rent for your pallet space.
Right. Maybe $40 a pallet a month. But here's the thing to watch. Long-term storage fees. If your product sits there for, 9 or 12 months, that cost can spike dramatically.
So you can't just use it as a dumping ground.
You can't. You need tight inventory management.
Yeah.
Then you have the main one, pick and pack.
This is the actual labor of putting an order together.
Yes. It's usually around $2.50 for the first item and then maybe another 50 cents for each additional item in the box.
And that $2.50 is for a simple standard item, I assume.
Oh, absolutely. If it's heavy, fragile, or needs custom work, that price goes up. And the last bucket is just packaging and shipping, the postage itself.
And they get huge postage discounts, right?
Massive. They get huge discounts from UPS and FedEx, and then they resell that postage to you, usually keeping a nice little margin for themselves.
Understanding that margin is key. Okay, let's switch gears to geography, because postage cost is all about distance. It's measured in these things called shipping zones.
Correct. Zone 1 is super cheap, like New York to New Jersey. Zone 8 is cross-country, New York to California, and that's expensive.
So this is where strategy comes in. If you're starting with just one warehouse, where does it go?
Most people think the coasts, but the optimal move is actually the Midwest, specifically Ohio or Kentucky.
Why there? Beyond just being in the middle of the country.
2 big reasons. 1, labor and rent are just cheaper there. But the main thing is, from those states, you can reach over 70% of the entire U.S. population with 2-day ground shipping.
70% in 2 days. That's huge.
It's the perfect balance of speed and cost for a single warehouse setup.
The big takeaway for you, the listener, seems pretty clear. That 300, 500 order mark is your pivot point. You have to make the leap.
You have to.
But when you do, you have to dissect those 4 fee buckets. Receiving, storage, pick and pack, and shipping, or you're just swapping one problem for another.
Moving from the garage to a centralized Midwest warehouse is that first real step toward building a scalable business.
So, if that centralized strategy works so well, it makes you think, what happens next? Here's something to mull over. What kind of new financial and inventory complexity gets introduced when a business grows even bigger and has to switch to a distributed strategy, managing stock across multiple warehouses? That's a deep dive for another day. Okay, so today we're doing a deep dive into something I think is fascinating. Multi-location inventory.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about the distributed logic, the brain behind an e-commerce store that decides which warehouse ships your package.
Yeah, and it's really a story about survival, not just scaling.
What do you mean by that?
Well, you don't just add a second warehouse for fun. You do it because sticking with one is, frankly, financially impossible once you grow.
So it's the cost that kills you.
It's absolutely the cost. Sure, slow delivery is bad. A customer on the West Coast waiting 5 days for a package from Pennsylvania isn't great.
Right.
But it's that cross-country shipping cost, what we call Zone 8 shipping, that just completely wipes out your profit margin.
So you're forced to set up nodes, maybe one in LA, one in PA, just to stay afloat.
Exactly. But the second you do that, you need some seriously smart software.
Right, because now it's a puzzle.
Yeah.
And the main goal of that software is avoiding what's called a split order, isn't it?
That is priority number one. It's not what most people would think.
So let's say I order a shirt and a hat.
Perfect example. Imagine warehouse A in LA only has the shirt, and warehouse B in Pennsylvania only has the hat.
But wait, if the whole point is speed, wouldn't this system just ship them both out immediately from their separate locations?
That's the trap. Because if it does that, you've just paid for 2 boxes, 2 shipping labels, 2 transit costs.
You doubled your shipping expense.
You've doubled it instantly. Yeah. All your profit on that sale. Gone. So the smart logic, the correct logic, has to force the entire order to a warehouse C.
Even if warehouse C is a bit further away from me.
Even then, you sacrifice maybe a day of speed to save your entire profit margin. It's a critical trade-off.
So preventing the mistake is actually more important than pure speed. But okay, now you have a new problem, a huge one, I'd imagine.
Oh yeah, the inventory balancing nightmare.
This is where you get regional stockouts, right?
Yeah.
Like the East Coast is completely sold out of red shirts, but you're sitting on a mountain of 1,000 of them in your LA warehouse.
And that's a disaster. Because now you're forced to do these frantic, expensive cross-country shipments between your own facilities just to fill orders.
Which is probably even more expensive than Zone 8 shipping to a customer.
Way more. The lesson here is that moving stock between your warehouses is almost always a losing strategy. It's too costly.
So what's the real solution?
You have to solve it upstream. When that container arrives from the factory, you don't send it all to one place. You plan ahead. Send 50% of it directly to LA and the other 50% directly to PA.
Prevention is cheaper than the cure.
Always.
This is where it gets really flexible, though. The whole omni-channel trend, using physical retail stores as, mini warehouses.
This is the game changer. I mean, it's truly revolutionary because you're activating inventory that was just sitting there.
You mean like ship from store, where an employee in a retail shop just packs a box and ships it?
That and BOPIS, buy online, pick up in store. The real benefit is you take this item that might have been sitting on a shelf for months and you turn it into a liquid online sale instantly.
Every single store becomes a part of your online fulfillment network.
Every one.
Okay, so let's tie this all together. At the end of the day, distributed logistics is just this complex balancing act. It's a trade-off between speed, cost, and really, really careful stock management.
Exactly. The goal is always to get the product to the customer faster, but the real difficulty is making sure your own algorithms don't sync you with bad decisions like split orders.
So here's a final thought for you to chew on. Considering how efficient and valuable this stores as warehouses model is becoming, what's to stop local retail employees from eventually becoming the main shippers for most online orders? What pressure could make that massive centralized warehouse out in the middle of nowhere totally obsolete?
Okay, let's do this deep dive. We're talking about shipping profiles and rate strategies. Right. And it's, one of those things that feels like a chore in the back end of your store. But getting it wrong, it can literally be the difference between making a profit and, well, just losing money on a sale.
That's it, exactly. So today we're going to unpack the common mistakes we see and, more importantly, how you can protect your margins.
And what's the number one mistake?
The single biggest error is just sticking with the default, that one-size-fits-all approach, the general profile that a platform like Shopify gives you out of the box.
And the danger there is it's pretty immediate. Let's use that example from the sources.
Yeah, the dumbbell one.
Right. So imagine you sell a little 6-ounce t-shirt, but you also sell a 50-pound dumbbell.
Okay.
And you run that super common promotion, free shipping on orders over $50.
Ah, I see where this is going.
A customer buys 2 of those dumbbells. That's $60. So they get free shipping. But what does it cost you to ship 100 pounds?
It could easily be $40, maybe more. So you just brought in $60 in revenue, but paid 40 of it right back out just for shipping. Your margin is gone.
You're completely underwater on the sale.
That's why you absolutely have to fix it structurally. You need multiple shipping profiles, a heavy goods profile, a light goods profile. You have to separate them.
Okay, so separate the heavy hitters from the featherweights. That makes total sense. Once you've done that, what are the actual strategies? It feels like this constant battle between keeping the customer happy and, protecting your own wallet.
That tension is the whole game. Accuracy versus simplicity. Let's start with simplicity. Price-based rates.
That's the spend $50, get free shipping one.
Exactly. And the huge pro here is that it works. It boosts your average order value, your AOV. It's marketing gold.
But doesn't that just put us right back in the danger zone with our heavy products? I mean, even in a separate profile, if I set that free shipping threshold too low, I'm losing money again.
That's the risk. And that's why a lot of brands prefer the second strategy, weight-based rates.
So this is more direct. 0 to 1 pound costs $5, 1 to 5 pounds costs $12, something like that.
Precisely. The benefit is bulletproof margin protection. It mirrors what the carrier is actually charging you.
But the trade-off is it doesn't really encourage anyone to spend more, right? And I can see how customers might find all the tiers a little confusing.
They can.
Ugh.
Which brings us to the third strategy, and this is where the psychology gets really interesting. Real-time carrier rates.
Calculated rates. So this is where my checkout actually pings, say, UPS or FedEx, to get the exact shipping cost to a specific zip code.
Yes. And functionally, it's perfect. You can
Yeah.
never undercharge. But here's the wild part the research points out.
What's that?
Customers hate the precision.
Wait, what?
It's true.
Yeah.
If the system shows them a shipping cost, like, say, $14.52, cart abandonment goes way up.
You're kidding?
Not at all. They would much rather see a simple, rounded flat rate, like $15 standard, even if it's technically more expensive. The accuracy itself feels wrong to them.
Wow. So the very thing that protects your margin actually pushes customers away. That's fascinating. Before we wrap up, we should give a quick warning about that old gimmick.
Oh, the free plus shipping thing.
Yeah, where the product is listed at $0, but the shipping is like 9.95 cents to cover the cost.
Avoid it. Just avoid it completely. Ad platforms like Facebook and TikTok will now flag that as low quality, and it can kill your reach. It's a total non-starter today.
So when you boil it all down, it seems like success here is about balancing these two opposing forces. You need the accuracy of profiles and weight-based rates to protect your margin.
But you also need the marketing power of simple, price-based flat rates to keep customers happy and boost that AOV.
It's a real tug-of-war.
It is.
Okay.
And that leaves us with, I think, a really powerful final question for you to think about. If we know that customers hate seeing a calculated rate like $14.52, how can you, as a business, use that super accurate real-time data on the back end to engineer a simple, rounded flat rate on the front end, a rate that feels good to the customer but is still profitable for you?
So how do you bake the accuracy into the simplicity?
Exactly. How do you find that perfect sweet spot? Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are really getting into it, unlocking some advanced shipping strategies. We're moving way beyond, just paying based on how much a package weighs.
Exactly. Our sources really lay out a roadmap here.
They do. And it points to some serious cost savings and real operational advantages for anyone selling online.
It's true. The goal here is, well, it's more than just a little optimization. We're talking about a complete shift in how you should think about pricing.
So what's our mission for this deep dive?
We are going to guide you straight through what the pros call the carrier matrix and pull back the curtain on the pricing methods that high-volume sellers are using. This is how you turn shipping from just a cost into an actual edge.
Okay, let's start there. The carrier matrix. The sources are pretty clear that you can't just, treat every carrier the same.
Not at all. There's a very sharp line, especially when it comes to the post office. USPS.
Right.
USPS is fundamentally for your light items, think anything under a pound, and for residential addresses.
Why is that?
Well, they're already going to every single house every day. It makes their pricing for residential drops incredibly efficient. The service you really want to look at is USPS Ground Advantage.
And that's their cheap 2 to 5 day option.
That's the one. Super effective for those small, light packages.
So then the opposite must be true for the big private carriers.
Yeah.
like UPS and FedEx.
Absolutely. If you're shipping heavier stuff, let's say over 2 pounds, or you're sending packages to commercial addresses, you pivot. You go straight to UPS or FedEx.
And even if their list price seems higher.
The reliability and the tracking are just on another level. For anything high value or business critical, it's a no-brainer. The post office just can't consistently match that.
Okay, this is where I think things get really interesting. The sources all point to this secret weapon that the pros aren't even paying by weight.
This is the aha moment for so many businesses. It's called cubic pricing.
Cubic pricing.
And it flips the entire script. It's a special rate tier for small but dense, heavy boxes.
Okay, give me an example. What kind of product are we talking about?
Think of a small box packed with heavy candles or some dense auto parts, maybe even concentrated supplements, heavy stuff in a tiny box.
So how small does it have to be? The notes mention less than 0.5 cubic feet, which sounds a bit technical.
It does, but it's simple when you picture it. It means the package volume has to be tiny. For context, think about like 2 shoe boxes laid end to end. That's about 0.5 cubic feet.
So my package is smaller than that.
If it's smaller than that threshold, it doesn't matter if it weighs 5 pounds or even 20 pounds. You can qualify for a low, flat rate.
Wait, 20 pounds? For a flat rate based on its size?
Yes. It's incredible. Instead of paying, say, $14 for a 10-pound box based on its weight, you might pay just $7.50 because it falls into a small size class, a C2 cube.
That's half price. That's why the sourcing call it non-negotiable. You have to use it.
But, and this is a big one, you can't just walk into the post office and ask for this, right? No, absolutely not. These are commercial rates. You have to use commercial shipping software to unlock them. Something like ShipStation or Shopify Shipping or Pirate Ship. That software is the key.
Okay, let's move on to another level of cost control. Negotiated rates.
Right.
Our sources say if you're doing any significant volume, maybe $50,000 a year in shipping spend, you should never, ever be paying the prices on the website.
That $50,000 mark is often the magic number. It's when the carriers start paying attention. But you can't just call and ask for a discount.
There's a tactic here.
There is. You call your UPS or your FedEx account manager and you state very clearly, we're looking to be moved into the gold tier incentive pricing bracket.
Wow, that language. Asking for a tier, not just a discount. That changes the conversation, I imagine.
Completely. It shows you know how the game is played, and the result is typically a 20 to 40% reduction off their standard daily rates.
A 40% reduction on shipping spend is huge. That's pure margin.
It's often way more impactful than trying to squeeze another 0.5% out of your manufacturing costs.
Okay, quickly, let's talk about risk. Shipping insurance. The standard $100 of coverage from carriers is, well, it's often not enough.
It's not. The sources point to 2 much smarter strategies. First is third-party insurance. Companies like ShipSurance.
And they're just cheaper and easier to deal with.
Generally, yes. The claims process is way less painful than fighting with a giant carrier.
And the second strategy, this one feels really modern.
It's consumer-paid insurance. You've probably seen it. It's that little widget from a company like Root or Nvidium in the shopping cart.
Yeah.
The customer pays like $1 to insure their own package.
Ah, I see that all the time.
Right, and it gives you a dual benefit. First, it's actually a small new revenue stream for your business, a tiny profit center. And second, it basically eliminates your liability for porch pirates.
Because the customer opted in and they handle the claim themselves?
Exactly. It's a brilliant shift of risk.
So when you put this all together,
Yeah.
the big takeaway here is that shipping isn't this fixed, unavoidable expense. It's a tiered, negotiable system you can actually control.
You have so much more control than you think. And that leads me to a final thought for you to explore. If your company is already using one of those consumer-paid insurance widgets, are you just treating it as pure passive revenue? Or are you actively using it to communicate better value or faster service to your customer? That mindset shift is the real advantage you unlock here. Okay, let's jump right into a scenario that I think every e-commerce manager just dreads.
Oh, I know this one.
You've shipped an order internationally, say, a jacket to Australia.
Yep.
And then a week later, you get that alert. The package is stuck at customs.
Awaiting payment of unexpected duties.
Yeah.
And the customer just refuses.
Right. They abandon the package.
And that's where customer retention goes to die. That single moment. You lose the product, you lose the shipping cost, and you have for sure lost that customer forever.
So that's the challenge. Today we're doing a deep dive into the source material on the 2 big philosophies for this: delivered duty unpaid versus paid, and the tech built to solve it, Shopify Markets Pro.
Right. And let's start with the problem, with DDU, delivered duty unpaid.
That's the one where the customer gets hit with the surprise bill upon arrival.
Exactly. And the consensus from our sources is just crystal clear.
Yeah.
If you're selling B2C so directly to consumers, you just have to avoid this model. It's fundamentally broken.
It's a guaranteed poor experience.
A terrible experience. So the goal has to be the opposite, which is DDP. Delivered Duty Paid.
This is where the seller collects everything at checkout. The product costs, the taxes, all of it.
You give them a guaranteed landed cost.
Mm-hmm.
And the package just shows up at their door like any local shipment. No friction.
But trying to manage all those global tax rates yourself, I mean, that sounds like a full-time job.
It is. It's a nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you need a scaled technical solution.
Which brings us to Shopify Markets Pro. But, let's be real for a second. That 6.5% transaction fee on international orders, it's not trivial.
It's not. So you really have to ask, what are you actually paying for with that fee?
So what is it? What's the value?
The real magic here is a legal term, merchant of record.
Okay.
Shopify, through its partner Global, legally becomes the one selling the product in that country.
Ah, so they're the ones on the hook for the taxes, not you.
Precisely. They take on all that legal responsibility for calculating, filing, and remitting the taxes. That calculation they do at checkout isn't an estimate, it's a guarantee.
So that 6.5% is basically liability insurance.
It's liability relief and automation. Plus, they bundle in these deeply discounted DHL Express rates.
Right. The sources mention that, like New York to London in 2 days.
Exactly. So you're trading what was a compliance risk for a growth channel with high-speed delivery.
Okay, it sounds almost too easy. There has to be a catch.
There is one. And it's a big one that the sources really, really hammer home.
Which is?
Perfect Harmonization System codes, HS codes.
We hear that term thrown around a lot. What is it fundamentally?
HS code is basically the universal language for customs. It's a 6 to 10-digit number that tells every customs agency in the world exactly what your product is. A cotton T-shirt, leather shoes, lithium battery.
And that code determines the tax rate.
Exactly. And while Global handles the complex tax rules, they rely 100% on you providing the correct HS code.
And if you get it wrong,
well, then that guaranteed price you show the customer at checkout is suddenly not guaranteed. The carrier will calculate the correct, probably higher duty,
Right.
And then the merchant of record, globally, they just bill you the seller for that difference.
So it completely undermines the entire seamless experience you were trying to create.
The whole thing falls apart. Ultimately, the choice between DDU and DDP it fundamentally defines the international customer experience you're offering.
So you're moving from a point of friction to a fully seamless transaction. The tech is there, but it requires, serious internal data hygiene.
That's the takeaway.
So we'll leave you with this final thought to consider.
Given the operational rigor you need for perfect HS codes and that non-trivial 6.5% fee, which of your specific international markets actually hold enough growth potential to justify making that investment? Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're getting into what might be the least glamorous, but most important part of e-commerce.
Reverse logistics.
Exactly. The hidden world of returns. We've gone through the operational playbooks, and, the goal here is to give you a blueprint to stop the bleeding. Okay, so let's just get right to the headline number, the one that just stopped me cold. A single return costs a brand 3 times more than a successful sale.
It's an incredible number, and it's important to know where that comes from.
Right.
You've got the outbound shipping, which is gone. Then you often pay for the return shipping. But the real killer is the processing labor.
So someone physically has to handle it.
You're paying a person to open a box, inspect some shirt that might be crumpled, maybe fold it perfectly, and then log it back into the system. That labor cost is where the economics just completely fall apart.
So if you have that kind of radical economic problem, you need a radical solution. I saw this concept in the sources, the returnless refund.
Yeah, it sounds completely backwards, doesn't it?
It does. Just keep it. Is that a real strategy?
It absolutely is, but only when the math works. So for your low-value items, think about like a $10 T-shirt.
Okay.
By the time you pay for two-way shipping and that inspection labor we talked about, you've already spent more than the $10 the shirt was worth.
So it is literally cheaper to just let them keep it and write off the product.
Efficiency, in this case, means paying to not get your own product back.
Wow. Okay, so moving from that to the actual customer side of things, the sources were brutal on this point. They said never, ever ask customers to email support for a return label.
Oh, that's just a black hole. It's slow, it costs you more in support time, and it makes the customer angry.
So the answer is a dedicated portal, like
Right.
returns.yourbrand.com.
Right, total automation. But the real goal of that portal isn't just making it easy.
It's about control.
It's about control. You want to prioritize the exchange over the cash refund. You make the exchange option the big, easy default button.
And you can even push them toward it. I saw that tactic of offering, $110 in store credit for a $100 return.
Exactly. Give them a little bonus. You keep the cash in the business, and you turn a return into a future sale. It's a win-win.
Now, what about speed? I mean, nobody wants to wait 2 weeks to get their money back after they've shipped something.
That's where refund at first scan comes in, or RFS. The second that package gets scanned at the post office, the system triggers the refund.
Instantly.
Instantly.
Okay, but hold on. That sounds incredibly risky. What stops someone from just shipping you back a literal box of rocks?
The famous box of rocks. Yeah, that's the obvious risk.
So how do you stop that fraud?
You don't offer it to everyone. You segment. RFS is for your loyal, repeat customers with a good history, or you only enable it for really low-value items.
So the financial risk is capped.
Right. The data shows it's cheaper to absorb that tiny percentage of fraud than it is to make all your good customers wait.
Okay, so the package is back at the warehouse. Now we get to the final step, disposition logic.
And this has to be simple. You have to give your fulfillment partner, your 3PL, crystal clear rules.
So they aren't wasting time deciding what to do.
No decisions allowed. It has to be a binary choice based on grades. Grade A, it's perfect. Back into stock.
What about grade B?
Grade B might be, the product is fine, but the box is crushed. That immediately goes to a resale or an outlet site. You don't put it back in primary inventory.
And grade C is just a loss.
Grade C is broken, worn, whatever. It's routed for recycling or donation. And the best rule I saw was, if the seal is broken, throw it away. Do not pay someone for 15 minutes to inspect a $15 item.
So this whole deep dive really maps that reverse journey, and it shows that the true operational challenge isn't just getting the product out the door. It's managing the flow back in.
It really completes the blueprint. You have to master both flows.
Right.
And that kind of leaves you with a final thought to explore. A bigger question, really.
Go on.
If a return costs 3 times more than a sale, how much money could a business save by investing all that energy at the very, very beginning?
Before the sale even happens.
Exactly. By investing in hyper-accurate product descriptions, better photos, perfect sizing guides, what if you could optimize the entire chain just by preventing the return from ever being necessary in the first place?